Well, good morning. I'm Jeffrey Daugherty, the Christian Whistleblower, and this is Above the Flat Circle, part number 2. The world is flat. The world is round, and we're getting into some very deep, philosophical, very deep, controversial, and we're never going to leave our bread and butter of biblical and parabiblical, study. Anthropological digging and looking, but we're getting into also, we'll never leave, and we're going to get even deeper into deeply philosophical, deeply spiritual studies. And this is probably the deepest study that we've ever done. I've got tons and tons of notes on it, and we're going to really break it down. I have some charts and things for you because it is very, very important that we understand it. And we understand it in as much detail as we possibly can. So this is the Christian Whistleblower moving to the next level. Playtime is over. It's time to really get deep. So those of you that want to get deep, come on in. The water's fine. Some of you, this may be too much for you. I'll just be frank with you. It might upset your spiritual tummies. So don't say that I did not warn you, but let's move forward. And of course, I want you to subscribe to this video. I want you to subscribe to this channel. I want you to like this video. I want you to share this video. It's very important that you do so, and I just want you to do it. People say to me, I can't understand why you're not getting more views on Coast to Coast all the time. A lot of subscribers, but your views don't seem to add up. Well, maybe there's a conspiracy, maybe there's not, but it's not worth worrying about. So I do all I can do. I'm just asking you to help by doing all that you can do. So with that in mind, let's go ahead and move into our study for today. And this may be a few days worth of study. I'm not sure, but this is part 2 of Above the Flat Circle. The world is flat. The world is round. I'm Jeffrey Daugherty, the Christian Whistleblower. And I think you're going to like this little bit of change in format. So let's take a look. Well, hi, I'm Jeffrey Daugherty, the Christian Whistleblower, and we're ready to get into our study today. As you can see, we've got things a little more in depth than they have been, and it's because this is a very, very deep subject. We want to make sure that we give it the attention that it deserves. And of course, you see, the world is flat, the world is round. It's a Christian Whistleblower revelation, and I said we're not getting away from our bread and butter, studies on through the Diamond New Testament, the original teachings of the Christ, and the one we have left now is Secret Teachings of All Ages. And we finished the Apostle Paul Antichrist study, and it's available on jeffreydaugherty.com and here on the YouTube channel. And we also finished the, what's the other one that we finished? The Demystifying the Book of Revelation. That's finished. It's available here on the YouTube channel and on the website. So the world is flat, the world is round. Let's do just a little bit of a review first. If you remember the last video, we were talking about the Friedrich Nietzsche philosophy as expounded by Rust Cole, the Matthew McConaughey character from True Detective. And of course, Nietzsche is probably most famous or infamous, depending upon your point of view, for the statement, God is dead. And if you'll remember on the last video, I said that I agree with that. God is dead, with a bit of a qualifier. And the fact is that, and many people think this is what Nietzsche was talking about, that the God of this world, Yahweh, the Lord, Jehovah, Marduk, Yaldabaoth, he's not quite dead, but he's dying. Yaldabaoth, the Lord, Marduk, Jehovah, I think he is dying, and I think he's dying because he's losing energy. Ignorance is being beaten back. There's more people coming into knowledge of reality and being able to get information. So the Yahweh, Lord, Jehovah, Nero, Paul, Roman Catholicism, Roman Protestantism matrix is losing its power, and as fewer and fewer people give their energy to this being Yahweh, as fewer and fewer people give their energy to this being the Lord, he becomes weaker and weaker. So I do believe that although God, Yahweh, fallen God, is not dead yet, he is dying. And we are here at the Christian Whistleblower to finish that job. Make no mistake about it. We are here to put Yahweh out of our misery. We're here to put the Lord out of our misery. And we're here to put Jehovah out of our misery. We are here to terminate him. And we also talked last time about the philosophy of this is a world where nothing is resolved. And that's true. Again, I agreed with that, with, again, a modifier, that this is a world where nothing of eternal consequence is resolved. And that's because this world is not constructed to bring about resolution for us. This world is rather made to help make us the resolvers of our everything. So yes, Nietzsche, yes, Cole was right, that this is a world where nothing is resolved, nothing of eternal consequence, that is, because it's a world that is not created or meant to be a place of resolution for us. It is instead created just to be a place that will help make us the resolvers of our everything. And we're going to go into that more and more as we continue on down this road. Now, let's get into what we're going to talk about over the next few videos. These are the things that we're going to talk about. These are the things we're going to look at. These are the things that we're going to focus on. We're going to talk about that flat line, how it's endless, how it's hopeless. It's a physically it is a flat line, and it is endless and it's hopeless, speaking of this life. But when you get into spirituality, when you move beyond just the physical realm and just the human realm and this body realm, we learn that time is actually a place where we have a chance to ascend, to go upward. Or conversely, there are people also going downward. So really what we're looking at is a place and a space within the plan of the Elohim for us to work out our own resolutions. For those that are going to go up, to go up. For those that are going to go down, to go down. And before you think I'm talking about heaven and hell, I'm talking about what the Elohim have set up is a place of faster vibration, harmonics, frequency, light, fast, spiritual, incorporeal, as opposed to a place of great density, slow vibration, slow frequency, slow harmonics. And this, believe it or not, tells the whole story of human life here in this age on this planet. We'll take a look at the fact that all people are either going up or they're going down. So we have a simultaneous up and down, people going into the higher realms, people going into the lower realms, people going into the faster realms, people going into the slower realms, people going into the lighter realms, people going into the denser realms. And Genesis chapter 1 spells out both the physical and the spiritual creations. It talks about the spiritual creation first, and that's what this is a picture of, is the spiritual creation. And we're going to also look at the physical creation. And this is where we'll get into round world, spherical world, flat world. And I think what I have to say on that is going to surprise you. And it's going to make some of you mad. And it's probably going to make some of you glad, but it is what it is. So these are the things we're going to look at in this video, or this series of videos. I'm not sure what it's going to be yet. But first of all, we want to talk about, this flat line. Endless, hopeless. And if you look at that, don't look at it like you're on top of it. I mean, it's like we're standing here and we're looking out across this. That's the kind of the perspective, that it is flat. And that it's circular. It's just over and over and over. And that's what Cole and Nietzsche, they were actually talking about. They were talking about this flat circle. And if we imagine that we're looking at this from the top down, you know, we're standing up high on a building and we're looking over, and this is down, you know, on the square before us. This circle, the Ouroboros, where, you know, it's just emblematic of time going on and 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 on. And this is what Nietzsche and Cole saw as the endlessly circuitous and without resolution makeup of human life. And they are absolutely 100% correct. Nietzsche was right. Russ Cole was right from a physical perspective, from a human viewpoint. Because what they were looking down upon is the eternal procession and march of an endless reincarnation without ascension. And it is, as we saw on that last video, it's endless, it is hopeless on that last slide. It is endless, it is hopeless when you're looking at it from the perspective of the flat circle. When you're looking at it from a physical perspective, without spiritual renewal, without, let me even amend that, without true spiritual renewal, you are stuck in this flat circle. And let me tell you right now, Abrahamic religion is designed to keep you in this flat circle. Abraham religion is designed to keep you grinding and grinding and grinding and grinding till you're all used up, until you just dissolve into that super dense space right here. They grind you to powder. Oh, that's a verse that just came to my mind that I didn't even think of when I was doing this. You know, the Christ says, if you fall in the Christ, you will be broken, because you have to understand that things that you understand aren't right. But if you don't fall in the Christ, you will be ground to powder. And that's what it's talking about. This endless grist mill will grind you into powder and drop you into lower and lower and lower and slower and slower and slower and denser frequencies till, for all intents and purposes, you cease to exist. But yet, this may be the place where people get the concept of eternal darkness, of eternal damnation. You notice there's no hellfire. That's strictly, you know, from a Catholic and borrowed from some other places as well. It's not a biblical or a teaching of the Christ, but it's possible, and we're going to look at this. Is this slow, horrible density, is it a place that you come to after a hopeless procession of who knows how long, and do you retain consciousness of some sort or type there? Because, you know, an eternal being, is it possible to ever really snuff out an eternal being? And we're all created with the spark of divinity within. But from the Nietzsche, from the Cole point of view, it is endlessly circuitous life, that is, this life. From a physical human viewpoint, you will be on a cycle of endless reincarnation without ascension until you come to a realization of the knowledge of the Christ and get out of the knowledge of human religion. Human religion has nothing to help you. Nothing. But as we look from a spiritual perspective, it's all different. From a spiritual perspective, as we've seen, time is no longer flat. Time, this world is no longer a place of no resolution, but this world is the container of time, which is really the facilitator of our own resolution, because we decide, and we're in this place right here, and we're going to look at this place. We decide, are we going to move up? Or are we going to, by decision, by inaction, and I think really, finally, just by exhaustion, move down again into that place of low density? So when you have a spiritual realization and a spiritual perspective, time, this world, time is no longer flat. It's no longer pointless. Time's no longer pointless. This world is no longer pointless. Because time gives us space, or time gives us a place for our own resolution. And it gives us a space for our own resolution one way or the other. And as I was asking prior to this, does it really go on forever? How long does this upward spiral go? How long does this downward spiral go? And I think probably, and if you have questions on this, ask me. If you have comments on this, ask me. Leave them, in the box below. But the question is, and I think the answer is that we determine this. I don't think that the Elohim, who are our creators, place any arbitrary limit on the time. I was wondering, do you get 9 cycles? I think I mentioned that last video, because the subject of 9 came up. But I think more than likely it's we determine. Are we going to keep going? Are we the little engine that could? Or do we finally, if we don't ever get it and we just fight through this religion, do we finally just get all used? Do we finally just quit out of frustration? Or are we finally, has Yahweh finally drained us of all our energy here? Let's ponder that for just a moment. And we'll be right back to continue this discussion. I'm Jeffrey Daugherty, the Christian whistleblower, and we'll be right back. All right, we're back pondering deep questions here. And, the question that we were pondering, does it really go on forever? And this, I think the upward spiral, yes, it can go on forever. As long as you are desiring to make progress, as long as you are desiring to keep going, as long as you're desiring to keep growing, you will keep growing and you will keep going. It's inertia. A body that is in motion tends to continue in motion. So if you're moving on up like George and Wheezy, you continue to move on up. But unfortunately, the opposite is true. A body that is in motion, and in this instance, a human body. So, yeah, let's be, it's very literal. But here's a revelation within a revelation. As we were, had a break, I had some tea boiling, so I forgot about it. I had to go take it off the burner. I think what happens here is we get here and we're going to see this. We're created in the image of the Elohim. And we're created with the spark of divinity. All of us. And John chapter 1 tells us all of us are given this enlightenment when we come into this world. And boy, that's another deep one. We got so much deep stuff going on. And those of us who start fanning it, we start going up. But those of us that get stuck on the Pauline train, that we get stuck on the Abrahamic train, we get stuck on the Pauline Roman Catholicism, or the Pauline Roman Protestantism, or the Pauline, maybe, and I'm studying this, maybe even Paul had a hand in, at least philosophically, in starting Islam. And of course there was Judaism that predated that. All of the Abrahamic religions, I think what happens is you get, you reach out for spirituality and you get on this Abrahamic path, and all it's set to do is use you up. It just sucks you, and not in a good way, sucks you dry. It just takes all of your energy, and finally, after you're going around and around and around and around that flat circle, sooner or later you get so far around, you get so far down into the density, you get so far down into the slow, you've got so little energy remaining that you can't get out anymore, and you're of no more use to the rat bastard Yahweh, Lord Jehovah. So for all intents and purposes, you cease to exist, but you're in this deep, dark density. And I think they in the Lord Yahweh, this is why I hate him so much, and this is why I fight him so much, and this is why myself and people like Cliff Desmond, and we need more people, and we need to get more about it, are trying to go into these realms and rescue people. I think it's possible because Yeshua did it, the Christ did it, and Peter talked about doing it. So what happens, I think, is you get so used up by Yahweh religion that all that's left here is the memory. And when you think about eternal damnation, forget the hellfire and brimstone. That's just scare tactics by Roman Pauline Christianity. But when you think about outer darkness, that's exactly what this sounds like. When you think about weeping and gnashing of teeth, gnashing of teeth is, oh, why didn't I? How come I couldn't see? How come I couldn't tell? How come I didn't know? And the weeping is the lost opportunity. Maybe, through the combined DNA of humanity, we remember those heady days of the garden when we were created in the image of the gods. We remember those days as a hybrid creation where we were able, or at least in training, to spread our wings, so to speak. Or maybe even the DNA and the spiritual spark of divinity contains the reality of all that we will be, the splendor. And that's the weeping, that's the gnashing of teeth. And I didn't even have that before I sat down. So that's a revelation within a revelation. So does it really go on forever? The answer is probably yes, in some way of thinking. But that's what we're talking about, and that's what we're looking at. And that's what we're hoping to help people avoid, this endless, numbing, pointless existence that will eventually suck you dry and leave nothing but the memories of what could have been, and help people to start partaking in this beautiful path of ascension. And from a spiritual viewpoint, we know that things are different. They're not what Nietzsche said. They're not what Cole said. There's an upward spiral. There's a downward spiral. Time is no longer flat. And it's no longer pointless if there's ascension. If there is no ascension, if you are a victim of the matrix mindset of the Yahweh, Jehovah, Lord, Pauline, Neronian, Roman Catholicism, Roman Protestantism matrix, it is pointless. You're wasting yourself. Only if there's ascension is there a point to this. And the ultimate resolution, of course, is our ascending to where we can move on. But the point of time is to give us a chance to work out our own resolution. We talked about whether there was a time limit, and we talked about how religion prevents the ascension, and religion basically just uses you up. So let's get into the first chapter of the book of Genesis, and let's start moving from theory. Well, let's start showing the biblical basis for these theories that we're talking about. Very good stuff. Very good stuff. So, as we move on, in Genesis 1:1, the gods created the heavens and the earth. And we've seen, and if you've read anything about me, you know that they did it perfectly. It was beautiful, it was perfect, it was wonderful. But in Genesis 1:2, you can barely see it, there's a reason for that. We came to this place, the earth came to this place of chaos. It says the earth became, not was, but the earth became without form and void. The earth became without form and void, and darkness was over the face of the deep. And, well, that's deep, but what it really means is that there was confusion, there was chaos, there was emptiness, there was a void. What the Elohim had created, Yahweh had destroyed and had turned it into confusion, chaos, emptiness, and void. And the word for darkness is the word chosek, which means blacker than black. It means overwhelmingly dark. And I want to call your attention to Exodus chapter 10, verse 21. I wrote it out here. And this is nothing short of extraordinary. Remember, the Elohim created the perfect earth with pre-Adamite man. That's all in. If you want to get that, it's and it's still $1.99 because I forgot to change the price. Serpents and doves in the garden of the gods. And it's also discussed in final message of the last apostle. But the perfect world, pre-Adamite man, the Lord rebelled against the Elohim. He destroyed the perfect earth, and it became formless and without void, confusion, chaos, emptiness, void, blacker than black, overwhelmingly dark. And if you look at Exodus chapter 10, verse 21, it says, and the Lord said, and that's key, the Lord said to Moses, stretch out your hand towards heaven, towards the skies, that there may be darkness over the land of Egypt. Even a darkness which may be felt. That's key right there. The darkness could be felt. Why? Because its density. It's slow. It's dense. And it's the same darkness that was in Genesis 1:2. Same word. Same darkness. And notice, it's from the same source. It was the Lord that destroyed the perfect heavens and earth. In Genesis 1:1, he actually destroyed them between 1:1 and 1:2, and they became blacker than black, overwhelmingly dark, a darkness which could be felt. They became incredibly dense. So he probably destroyed more than just the earth. See, here's more revelations. He probably collapsed the whole system that was set up to give us a chance to, wow. We'll have to get into that later. That's a whole nother show. But the Lord is the creator of this darkness, this density. The Lord is the creator of this part down here. That's the Lord's creation. And there was our situation. Super dense, confusion, emptiness, void. No chance. And the thing about it is, remember, if you get down in here, there's no chance of getting out because you're done. You don't have the energy. So the Lord had tried to create a place where we couldn't get out. But then what happened? It says that the breath of the Elohim fluttered above the waters and shook them. So what really happened was that the breath of the gods fluttered and shook the dense darkness. And I put this picture in here because what happened was the Elohim introduced their divine frequencies. The Elohim introduced their divine harmonies. The Elohim introduced their divine vibrations. And why did they do it? They did it to offset the density. And this isn't speculation. This is right in the scriptures. It was dense, dark, void, that you could feel the density and the darkness. It was slow. And then the Elohim introduced their divine frequency, divine harmonics, divine vibrations to offset the density. Are you with me? And that's what they did. They brought in that newness. They brought in their density. And here's what happened. When the Elohim brought in their harmonics, you had this dichotomy now. And it goes all the way back, to the ancient ones. They all understood this. It goes back to this dichotomy that the Elohim introduced, and we're going to see in our next slide, and we saw in the back, remember, they introduced light. And then there was dark. And this dark is the hopeless density of Nietzsche and rust coal. It's that density that we saw of Exodus 18:21. But I also want to call your attention to this, and we're going to take just another quick break. And we're going to look at the fact that what the Elohim did is created from the waters either springs, that came from the Elohim, or floods, which came from Yahweh. So, again, put your thinking caps on, get yourself a little drink of water, take a little break, and we'll be right back to continue on. I'm Jeffrey Daugherty, the Christian Whistleblower, and this is Above the Flat Circle, Part 2, The World is Flat. The World is Round. We'll be right back. All right, here we are. We're back. And just for a minute, we need to go into the scriptures, because we saw that the Yahweh, the Elohim, created the heavens and the earth. Yahweh rebelled, destroyed them, and created this deep, dense darkness, which in the Hebrew, the original Genesis, it says there was dark, dense waters, right? Dark, dense waters. And the dark, dense waters, you have a choice between the waters of Yahweh and the waters of the Elohim. And the waters of Yahweh are like the waters of Matthew 24. In Matthew 24, the day and the hour knoweth no man, dung, 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 not the angels, dung, 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 but days of Noah. And this doesn't have to mean that the days of Noah were true, but it just has to be that we have a reference point of what the days of Noah were like. For as in the days before the flood, they were eating and drinking, marrying, giving in marriage, until the day that the flood came and took them all away. So, eating and drinking. Oh, this ties in directly to what we're going to look at. This ties into the eating and drinking of Christianity. Believe me, I'm going to show it to you when we get it to that point. Marrying and giving in marriage. I mean, who does that? Well, that's part of Pauline religion, isn't it? Catholicism, Protestantism, marrying, giving in marriage. Until the flood came and took them all away. They were partaking in the days, marrying, giving in marriage, being involved in their Christianity until the flood overwhelmed them. They were no longer able to get out of it. They were no longer able to get out of it. One gets taken down by the flood into the density. The other leaves, goes up, that we talked about. Even it's men and women. One grinding in this mill. Oh, did I just say earlier that Yahweh grinds you in the mill until there's nothing left? One part of humanity is going to be ground to nothing. The other is going to get the hell out of there. So that's what the flood, the waters of Yahweh are. They are floods that will carry you away. Let's also look at Luke chapter 17. Luke talked about it as well. And I want to see what Luke's take on it was. Luke 17, 26. Luke 17, and we'll just go to the King James here, and we'll roll down to number 26. And it says, "But as it was in the days of Noah, so shall it be in the day of the Christ." Oh, this is so powerful. "They ate, they drank, they married wives, they were given in marriage." They were carrying on their little Christian worlds, eating, drinking, marrying, giving their kids in marriage, until the flood came and destroyed them all. Until the flood came and destroyed them all. They ate, they drank, they bought, they sold, they planted, they builded. Until the flood came and destroyed them all. Until they were ground into powder, until they had no strength left. No strength left. The waters of Yahweh, the Lord, Jehovah, are there to drain you of all of your energy, all of your power, all of everything that you are, until you are so ground down that you can't get out of the deep density and you're no longer good to Him, and He just leaves you there. But then, if you remember when we talked about it, the Elohim brought in their frequency, and it was also called waters, the waters above and the waters beneath, and we're going to see that here in just a minute. What were the Elohim's waters all about? Well, the water of the Elohim is described in John chapter 4. Let's look at John chapter 4. This just came to my mind. That's why I didn't have it so planned out. It just came to my mind during our little break. John chapter 4. And I believe it's in 34. John chapter 4 Number 13. I'm so sorry. And this is the waters of the Elohim. Whosoever drinks of this water will never thirst. But the water I give is a well of water springing up, springing up, springing up, spiraling up to what? Everlasting life. So the water of the Christ, the water of the Elohim, it's like a spring of water. It springs up. It springs up. Whereas the water of Yahweh pulls down into everlasting darkness, whereas the spring of the Elohim comes into everlasting life. Wow, that is powerful stuff. And that's what we're looking at here, the springs. The springs. And let's do this. The springs of the Elohim, as we've seen. The floods of Yahweh, as we've also seen. And then Genesis says, and the evening and the morning were the first day. The becoming dark or the becoming light, if I'm going straight from the Hebrew, is the first purpose of the age. Evening and morning were the first day. Becoming dark or becoming light is the first purpose of the age. That's the literal Greek rendering, or Hebrew, pardon me. Becoming dark or becoming light is the first purpose of the age. The personal resolution of our own spiritual destiny. I'm looking at this on a larger screen above, if you wonder why my eyes are not looking where you think they should be. Wow! That's some deep stuff. That's some really, really, really deep stuff. And if you think that's deep, look where we're going. This is where we're going. The spiritual creation of this present 3D world age. Amazing. Staggering. Stunning. I think we've given you enough to chew on for today. And we will go into the rest of this tomorrow, I think. Let's ponder that, and let's wrap things up and tie a bow on them for this part of our discussion. I'm Jeffrey Daugherty, the Christian Whistleblower. Wow. Now that is some very deep teaching. See, we're getting beyond the now I lay me down to sleep, Sunday school, baby Christian realms that many people are used to. And we're getting into some of the deep waters, I guess unintended, of the real, true revelation of the book of Genesis. You know, we've talked about the physical and, you know, the actual, what it really means, and now we're getting into what it really means even in a deeper sense, a spiritual sense. So there'll be at least one more, probably two more of these, because I want to go all the way through the creation epic in Genesis. And then who knows where we go from there. But again, subscribe to this channel, like this video, share this video, tell people about it. Your mom, your dad, your sister, your brother, your in-laws, your outlaws, your friends, your enemies. Tell them. Let them know. And let's help this channel grow. JeffreyDaugherty.com, ChristianWhistleBlower.com, @Unindoctrinate on Twitter, Facebook, Jeffrey Daugherty Show. And we'll look forward to seeing you on next time. And until then, I am Jeffrey Daugherty, the Christian Whistleblower. And we're here to help you unwind your mind and do all we can to help you unindoctrinate yourself.